Hello. Hey, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I call to order the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners in a business meeting this October 8th, 2015. I will announce that Commissioner Smith is excused for this meeting. And so I'll ask our Deputy County Administrator, Nancy Newton, to take the roll.
Certainly. Commissioner Bernard.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Here.
Chair Ledlow.
Here, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the first thing we always try to have at our business meetings first is to have citizens communication. We have a card here, Mr. Les Poole.
Good morning, Les Poole, Clackamas County. A couple things I want to bring to you. One, the citizens in Jennings Lodge and around the area are pleased that the deadline was extended and some additional considerations being made on that property down there that is slated for development, the evangelical property. And make no mistake, folks, we know trees are going to get cut. If Metro has their way, too many trees are going to get cut. There's some real irony in that. But with regards to Jennings Lodge, those folks are now talking to the people in Portland, and we're starting to see a groundswell of what I've spoken about off and on for a few years now. We're seeing people beginning to understand that the elephant that is hiding in the closet in every room, whether it's Damascus, the CRC fiasco, whether what's going on with mandating density that we cannot possibly live with, it's time to change that. It's time to change that. It's time to have you folks make the decisions again. You're hogtied in too many ways, and we have a layer of government that's never been held accountable, that has the ability to punish you, fiscally withhold money, and politically punish you if you don't do what they want. Anytime we create, in the history of this country, anytime we've ever created a centralized authority that basically, with a small group of people, a faction, when was the last time we created something like that and it worked, and it wasn't abused, and it didn't get too big for its own self? So it is time to change Metro. It's time to go online to local-control.com, sign the petition that would give the land use authority back to cities and counties. I want to close with this. It's not on page 1, but by God, Pamplin's been covering it. We have an institution that has a terrible record of trying to manage growth and the growth boundary. And I've testified before Metro and told them that they're being asked to do the impossible and set up to fail. So no matter who's in there, we're going to have this ongoing layer of government that's going to determine the future density and the industrial lands and act as a vice over you folks and over us. I don't know how we're possibly going to create the kind of density that they are planning on forcing on us this December, but it is going to ruin the livability here. And they're great with buzzwords: livability, a sense of place, a sense of community. I won't digress any further. I'm out of time. But I do want to go back to Jennings Lodge and say that, yeah, Jennings Lodge wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for the culture that is being foisted on the region. Thank you.
I think it was Lord Acton who said, "Power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely." So we'll see how that goes. That is the only person that signed up today for citizen communication. And now we have a public hearing. Nancy.
Okay, so Currently, the board will need to recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene again as the Service District Number 5 Board for the next several public hearings.
Oh, let me do that.
Oh, okay.
All right, we're going to recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Service District Number 5 Board for the next several public hearings.
And Wendi Coryell is going to be presenting the following 12 assessment areas together, and this will accumulate with one motion then from the board.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Wendi Coryell, representing Clackamas County Service District Number 5, which is the agency responsible for street lighting in the unincorporated areas of Clackamas County and for the cities of Happy Valley and Damascus. Today I'm before you for your consideration, 12 service areas, and 6 are in the unincorporated areas of Clackamas County, and 6 are in the city of Happy Valley. Street lighting is required as conditions of approval for all new residential, commercial, industrial, and multifamily developments. And we are looking at this for the Clackamas County, city of Happy Valley, and Damascus areas. Street lighting can also be installed through the district's petitioning process. The first area for your consideration is Area 1914, which is Concord Vineyards 2. This is a 32-lot subdivision, and this is on Southeast Vogel Road. We'll be using Cobra lights on fiberglass poles, and this will come under Rate B at $51.03 per tax lot each year. The next 2 areas for your consideration are areas 4214, and that's a 2-lot partition on Southeast 82nd Drive. And the second one is 32-15, which is Tasso Hills 6-lot subdivision, which is on Southeast Blanton Street. We'll have Cobra lights on existing wood poles, and these will come under Rate B at $51.03 per tax lot each year as well. The next areas for your consideration are areas 1415. It's a 1,600 square foot commercial building addition on Southeast 94th Avenue. And area 36-15, which is an industrial building on Southeast Jennifer Street. We'll have Cobra lights on wood poles on these projects as well. These will come under Rate D at $1.28 per frontage foot per tax lot each year. And the last areas for your consideration are these aren't the last. The next 3 areas for your consideration are 17-15. These are mixed-use commercial buildings, which will go on Southeast Sunnyside Road and 172nd. And area 28-15, which is Sunnyside Memory Care Facility on Southeast 117th. And then 31-15, which is Town Center Greens. This is a 60-unit apartment building on Southeast 85th Avenue. We'll have Cobra lights on fiberglass poles, and this too will come under Rate D at $1.28 per frontage foot per tax lot each year. And then the last items for your consideration, last areas, are 01-15, which is Pineview Meadows. This is a 42-lot subdivision, and it's in Happy Valley. And area 03-15, Grandview Meadows, 69-lot subdivision, is also on or in Happy Valley. And area 0415 on Quail Hill, this is a 22-lot subdivision, and 0515 Scouters Meadow, 39-lot subdivision, is also in Happy Valley. We will be using a Westbrook light and pole, and these will come to Rate W at $250 per tax lot each year. And that concludes the presentation. There were no remonstrances received for any of these areas, and after the presentation and a review of this, I also would like to, if there's time, be able to talk to you a little bit about a project that we're going to have a meeting about in the future.
All right, Commissioners, do you have any questions or clarifications necessary? All right, I'll open the public hearing and ask if anyone wishes to speak on any of these items. All right, close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
I move we approve the board order for the 12 assessment areas within Clackamas County Service District Number 1 as presented today.
Number 5.
What did I say?
One, you said.
Number 5.
5, okay.
One is west.
All right, so corrected. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Bernard, seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Further discussion? All right, Kevin?
All right, Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Bernard,
Aye.
Chair Ledlow.
Aye, passes 4-0. All right, Wendy?
So we've been talking with the board in past discussions regarding the Mclaughlin Boulevard street lighting petition. It's been the community's desire to add street lighting on the Mclaughlin Boulevard, Oregon Highway 99, from the city of Milwaukee to the city of Gladstone. And the community has been soliciting the property owners to have them sign a petition to hopefully obtain 51% so that they can come to the board for approval. And we're happy to say that the community has reached their number to move it before the board for approval. And we do plan on having a policy session on November 10th, and we also will have a public hearing on November 25th, and those are set to come and discuss that with you.
So we hit 51%.
We have more than 51%. So they're still working towards obtaining more signatures, and hopefully when we go back today, there's more sitting on my desk, but they are still canvassing the area. But there's been no remonstrances from the community, so it's been successful up to this point.
Great, good work.
Commissioner Bernard. Says Smith on it.
Oh, sorry. I had an opportunity to go to the MAPIT meeting when they made this announcement and the celebration. They expect to be over 60%. They had a number of them that they haven't actually, people were interested, but they needed to make sure they got the signatures and all that stuff. You got to thank those folks who worked on this and made it possible, because a lot of people, when they get a notice in the mail and they see it's from the government and they think, oh, more taxes, which is mainly the complaint that people had. Why do we have to pay for this when we pay enough taxes? When the tax bills come out, I think you should really take a look at Clackamas County and do a little comparison on what our taxes are compared to others. And you'll find that Clackamas County's rates are much lower than some of our other providers. And I think that you will probably get a report from our elected tax official that might show you a little chart. Take a look at it, and I think that Clackamas County has done a really good job with their tax dollars. And paying for lights on Mclaughlin Boulevard. We're actually contributing hundreds of thousands of dollars towards this project, and it's really very exciting. The other thing is that Mclaughlin Boulevard safety should be a priority, and these lights will improve the safety and, frankly, the value of Mclaughlin Boulevard. So I'm really excited and thankful for the folks who worked so hard to make this a possibility. When we set that money aside, we were optimistic, and thankfully they were very successful.
Yeah, definitely kudos to the MAPIT group and others. We were actually, I think Commissioner Savas and I attended the kickoff for that signature gathering, and it was great enthusiasm with which they approached this. And, having grown up in Oak Grove, there has long been needed lighting, not only for safety purposes, but for continuity, to give it some kind of a look that this was planned in some way, as sometimes Mclaughlin doesn't look like. But again, congratulations to all those involved. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I just want to echo everything that's been said. It was 1999 when I participated in the 99E corridor study, when we came up with some recommendations of sidewalks and street lighting as one of the recommendations from the committee. And here is 15, 16 years later, and we're making progress. ODOT has come through with a number of sidewalks, fortunately, and funded quite a bit of that. And so the next piece of that being lighting. So I've been bumping into a lot of people. People have been reaching out to me because I live in that area, asked me about that whole lighting effort, and did my best to encourage them to talk about the safety and the value of the lighting, the boulevard, and making it a better, safer place. So this is exciting. It's excellent news. Kudos to the MAPIT.
All right, we're going to adjourn as the Service District Number 5 Board and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners for the remainder of the meeting. The first is the consent agenda. I'll ask the clerk to read the consent agenda by title.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. Under Health, Housing, and Human Services, approval of Amendment Number 1 to an agency service contract with Cascadia Behavioral Healthcare for assertive community treatment programs, approval of a revenue intergovernmental agreement with Oregon Department of Human Services, Office of Vocational and Rehabilitation Services for job placement and job retention services, approval of an agency service contract with Northwest Family Services for PreventNet Community Schools, approval to Amendment Number 1 to an intergovernmental agreement with Oregon Department of Education Early Learning Division to provide early learning hub services. Under elected officials, approval of previous business meeting minutes. Under technology services, approval of an intergovernmental agreement between Clackamas Broadband Exchange and the City of Oregon City for the use of the City of Oregon City's conduit, and approval of a service level agreement between Clackamas Broadband Exchange and the City of Oregon City for the city's use of the CBX fiber network, and that concludes the consent agenda.
All right, Commissioners, you want to remove any of these items or discuss them, need more information? All right, I'll
Yes,
ask-
I would like to just briefly discuss, not remove, but just briefly discuss the latter one that was introduced by Mr. Moss, and that was the
Put it back up there, Ernie.
CBX IGA with Oregon City. This is I just want to point out the highlights really of this. This is really a project the county got involved with before I came on board, and a means to provide fiber to areas for service, and we got a federal grant, and we really, our goal then, as is now, is to do this at the lowest cost with a minimalist amount of overhead and staffing, and to provide really a lower cost for our school district, emergency, fire, transportation, all kinds of agencies be able to use this. And it's nice to see Oregon City taking advantage of that. The math is, their cost for $6,000 a year, how that relates to other costs within Oregon City is, a discussion for another day. But this is a good arrangement. I'm happy to see this. And ideally, we actually look towards our relationships with our cities in that same context. We're all here to do the best we can and make most efficient the tax dollars we have, and really to provide and work together with other cities for those services at the lower cost, whether it's wastewater, transportation issues, or in this case, the fiber. Our goal is really, again, is to benefit all of the citizens of the county and provide the lowest cost operations and save money where we can. This is a product of that, so I just want to point that out today.
Yeah, what's interesting about that is that when the exchange first came to be, Oregon City had an opportunity to hook up for much less than what they're paying now, but it's nice to see them finally come on board for some of their municipal buildings. All right, is there a motion?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, motion by Commissioner Bernard, second by Commissioner Schrader. Further discussion? All right, Kevin?
All right, Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Bernard,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Chair Ledlow.
Aye, passes 4-0. And now, Nancy, are you ready to give some kind of an administrator update?
I certainly am. Thank you, Chair Ludlow. Yesterday, more than 150 people attended a youth suicide prevention forum. This was sponsored by our Health, Housing, and Human Services Department. And people in the attendance featured state and local specialists from behavioral and public health, along with youth who have had this issue impact their lives. The forum drew healthcare providers, school staff, individuals with related life experiences, and members from the faith community. And I want to thank Health, Housing, and Human Services for coordinating this important gathering. Clackamas County is also proud to co-sponsor the 4th annual Flood of Information event on the Sandy River. Here we are again. So it's set for Saturday, August 24th, up at the resort at the mountain in Welches.
October?
Yeah. I'm sorry?
Is it October 24th?
October 24th. I'm sorry, I'm still recovering from my sinusitis. This event will feature experts from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the National Weather Service, multiple county departments, And we invite all of our residents, especially those who live on or near the Sandy River, come join us and be better prepared for the upcoming winter season, possible floods, and other emergency situations. The event, of course, is free. And I also just want to myself acknowledge our emergency management department. They have just done such phenomenal work leading this effort. Nancy Bush is the director of that department. Jay Wilson has also been heavily involved in setting up the data and working with that community. So I want to acknowledge them personally. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. And now it's time for Commissioners' Communications. We'll start with Commissioner Schrader.
All righty. Well, first I'm going to start out with the arts and culture activities in the county because that gives us an overhead here. And I have committed to talking about that so people can enjoy their weekends. It helps with tourism and economic development. So in Molalla, there is an Apple Festival this weekend. Traditional music, artists and vendors, living history demonstrations, and of course, apple pie and cider for the whole family. I don't know if there's going to be apple dunking. I don't know if they do that anymore, but that would be fun too. And it's October 10th, this Saturday, 10 to 4 at the Molalla Area Historical Society. The next piece is kind of fun since Halloween is coming up, and that's Ghost Towns in Oregon, A to Z. And this is local author Steve Arndt presents a multimedia show highlighting ghost towns in Oregon, including many in the Willamette Valley. This is October 10th at 1 at the end of the Oregon Trail Interpretive Center in Oregon City. So if for any other event that you'd like to see involved with the arts, you can always go to the Arts Alliance website, clackamasartsalliance.org. So there we go, folks. I hope that people have a chance to enjoy some of these activities this weekend. A few of the other things I wanted to mention is that we all had an opportunity to go in front of the North Clackamas Chamber of Commerce recently where we talked about our priorities. In particular, no one is happy with the urban growth boundary report in terms of no expansion. And one of the suggestions, which I think is a good one, that I hope to pursue with folks in the region is that the mayors would like to form a task force that really looks at some of the underlying assumptions that drives urban growth expansion. They're all worried about this, and I think it would be a good way to let our partners in the region know that the expectation is that within a 3-year period that gets moved ahead, that if there's going to be a restart, it needs to happen now, and it needs to happen quickly. So that was a good conversation, and I hope that we can do a follow-up with our mayors about that particular issue. The other thing I wanted to talk about is Performance Clackamas, because one of the pieces that we're talking about is job development and business development. Well, I had an opportunity this past week to attend an event hosted by Oregon Tech with the Pacific Northwest Defense Coalition. And essentially, that PNDC is actually a manufacturing organization that really consists of businesses from Oregon as Washington. Just to give you a quick example, Boeing, Esterline, Fleer, General Dynamics, Leopold and Stevens, Leidos, Microsoft actually is a member of the Pacific Northwest Defense Coalition. Oregon Iron Works, the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, which actually innovates and gets things from applied research out to the market. They're a part of this Invigor Industrial. It includes businesses from aviation, defense business, education, electronics, engineering, equipment sales, services, general services, logistics and packaging, manufacturing, so on and so forth. And you can go to their website and see the massive list of members that were there. Well, they had a meeting at Oregon Tech where Oregon Tech showcased its engineering and its programs for students. They are part of the Oregon University system. They have the highest job placement rate of any member of our Oregon University system. They are an applied polytechnic institute. And one of the things that they're doing very well, particularly with high school students and students who want to get into the engineering field, they have what they call is a hub, an education hub, where they have high school transition programs and high school technology hubs. They get kids who may be interested in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, into that pipeline very quickly so they can get into those jobs that these businesses are actively recruiting for. It's one of the ways that we, as an organization and as a county, and we are a member of the PNDC, by the way, that we can help fulfill our goal of making sure that we are connecting, that businesses can expand, and we are connecting people to open jobs who are trained, skilled up, and ready to work. So I would suggest if folks have a chance to go to the Oregon Tech website, take a look at their high school technology hubs, their high school transition programs. It enables students to get training for less money, you know, in a way that's affordable for them, and then enter into these fields. In particular, they do a lot with energy kinds of things, looking at new alternatives to energy and how that's going to pull us into the 21st century. Engineering, just amazing things. So I wanted to say that this is in Clackamas County. They are sited in Clackamas County, and we are partners with them in making sure that we meet our performance Clackamas measurements. The other thing I wanted to mention very quickly is as well as PNDC, I wanted to thank the NAMI folks. Evidently there was an event, the Gordon and Sharon Smith Freedom Award dinner, dealing with mental health. And as you know, because of recent things that have happened in our state, the sad issue of what has happened in Roseburg, looking at mental health issues is becoming more and more important as we move forward. I think that's something that we are all concerned about, and I think that is something that NAMI in particular, give a shout out to them, has been absolutely incredible in this county for doing the reach out and helping people and helping families that have to deal with mental illness situations. So with that, I don't think I have anything else to mention, and thank you, colleagues.
Thank you. Commissioner Bernard.
So I believe the chair mentioned last week, and I don't know if you guys have had an opportunity to sit and talk to the grand jury. Have you guys? Yeah. Oh, good. Very informative. I had no idea, no understanding of how that really worked. People dedicate basically a month of their lives to go through all the cases that are being considered for a trial and determine whether there's enough proof to move forward. It's very interesting. One of the biggest problems we have, frankly, is that in order to move through these and eliminate the grand jury would require a huge investment in judges, which we have failed to do in the state. Also, probably 5 months ago, I had an opportunity to sit in with the DA's office when they tried to, they discussed negotiating pleas that those that go to trial or are heading to trial can often negotiate a plea. Let's say it's 5 years instead of 10 years or whatever. Which for a long time I thought was a terrible thing to do. I thought that our judges should make those decisions. But, again, we haven't invested in the judges, enough judges, so that everyone can go through that process. And some people, I would say that, I know somebody years ago who pleaded guilty on something even though they hadn't done it. At least they claimed they hadn't done it. But it was so much easier than having to go through the trial process, and that's a danger in not only the grand jury but in those negotiations. I hope to attend that flood event. I've actually I've gone to one or two of those over the years, and it's a great event, very informative. The Sandy River is probably one of our most challenging rivers because it's called the Sandy River because it's sandy. I don't know if that's where the name actually came from, but so anytime there's a major flood, it shifts. And so that's a great opportunity to go to that event. And the metro thing, one of the biggest problems with Metro's charter, I believe it's their charter, is that they're required to look at a regional need rather than a sub-regional need. And so Clackamas County could need everything, but they have to look at the region, and therefore I think that Clackamas County and other counties fail to get those needs addressed because they're required to look at a regional need. So there is a flaw, and it needs to be fixed. It's probably a legislative fix, but I think it's great that the mayors would get together and have a discussion, work with Metro, and see if they can resolve those issues. The other thing that was mentioned earlier about forced density in Jennings Lodge at the retreat, I don't think anyone's forcing us to have a certain density at that site. Lots of times those issues are addressed because of the cost of the infrastructure and, of course, a profit margin. So I have not had, I don't think we've had areas in that area that anybody's requiring a density. There's a density requirement. There is interest around, and I went to that MAPIT meeting, interest around a discussion on the Orange Line Station Park Avenue area. Are there folks interested in doing something or not? But I think that's a discussion we need to have. Let's find out if there's interest. And before we waste a lot of time applying for grants or having a bunch of hearings, let's find out how much interest there is in looking at the Orange Line Park Avenue station. And finally, our Clackamas County Dog Services, there is a dog, Lovo, a wonderful senior German Shepherd. He is looking for a home to spend his retirement years. He is a good old guy with a sweet and loving disposition, in need of a nice soft bed and good pats on the head from a family. He knows how to sit, take treats gently. Come meet him, and you'll see just how great he truly is. For more information about Lovo and other adoptable dogs, please contact Clackamas County Dog Services at 503-655-8628 or look on the web at www.clackamas.us/dogs. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas.
Well, I'm just going to change my order of things I wanted to talk about because of Commissioner Bernard's comments. I just want to kind of build on what we could do. And as I mentioned earlier, we were talking about the lighting district and that opportunity, and that was a study that was done, and interest around lighting and interest around sidewalks, and opportunity, presents itself with the lighting poles that we were able to negotiate with PGE, and now this lighting district with the community behind that. That's all great, but as it relates to the Jennings Lodge issue and the Evangelical Retreat Center and the density, there was something we could have done had we implemented it back when the MAP 1 was presented, and actually approved that and actually worked our work program into the residential zoning piece and followed the advice or recommendation or desire of the community, the guiding principles actually specifically, that we work towards preserving the neighborhoods and the density in the neighborhoods, and we could have done that had we moved forward faster with the revision of our our 5-year plan on our ZDO. So we kind of booted and kicked that off to the very end, and voila, all of a sudden this Evangelical Retreat Center presents itself, and unfortunately we're too late, and we're spending most of our time on the marijuana thing, which is part of the rationale for moving forward with that, as opposed to doing this. But so we're spending a lot of our times on pot. And some of the questions I got, those flyers, those yellow flyers, are showing up on people's mailboxes. I'm getting a couple calls, and people ask me about it and say, "Well, what's all that about? What are we doing?" And kind of explaining that is a requirement whenever we consider a zone change or any changes to our ZDOs that we do a mailing, so we are considering that. There was a meeting discussion here 2 Thursdays ago where the Board of County Commissioners considered, or actually listened to testimony or people talk about that, and we'll be having some more discussion about that as identified on that flyer. But as Commissioner Schrader mentioned, we did meet with the Chamber and tying all this time together, what do county commissioners do and what are we up against? And I kind of look at some of the challenges we had. We really came up about our 20-year problem. 20-year problem in that context was the wastewater. Started out with that discussion. For 20 years, we had been trying to solve the wastewater problem at a particular plant. And then in that conversation, another 20-year problem we've had is really employment land. We really have a need identified 20 years ago, or shortage, and that's another problem we have yet to solve. And I started thinking about that a little bit farther. And another 20-year problem we've had is our roads, road maintenance, and we've had a lot of discussion about that. We haven't made a lot of progress there. What other 20-year problems are out there? Well, our museums have been in trouble, and so same thing with our fairgrounds. Our fairgrounds are in trouble. It's all about funding, and those are things that we have the ability to address. And I think Portland, just this week, Councilor Novick proposed a 10-cent on the May ballot, a 10-cent fee. Maybe that'll solve. I think it's projected maybe to solve their problem for now. I don't know that we can solve our $17 million shortfall or estimated shortfall in one fell swoop, but I think we could make a stab at it. But there's not a lot of pride to say that we've actually sitting on some of these problems for so long and haven't been able to make much progress on them. But I'll list them again. I think we need to really think about taking some steps, taking some action. I want to do something, make progress on some of these. But funding and operations for museums is huge. There used to be a provision that was in the transient room tax ordinance that was passed, and that was funded. That went back to the voters, and revision was made to where that funding went towards tourism only. Our fairgrounds, monies were also, that same tax also was there to help fund the fairgrounds, and they get some funding, but not adequate funding. So those two areas, they need help, and we lost our livestock building due to disrepair, and that was torn down, and right now we're hosting that in a tent, basically. Our other issue, roads, wastewater capacity issues, and employment land specifically for to make sure that ourselves and our kids and our future generations have employment here in Clackamas County. It's a huge issue. Today at, I believe this afternoon, 2 o'clock, there's a hearing, and we have asked Metro to not hold this hearing. They are seemingly rushing towards closing the door on any opportunity for us to address our employment land needs. And that's bothersome. I don't think there's really a need for that. We have sent them some correspondence stating that we've got this employment land shortage. As Commissioner Bernard earlier stated, when we look at it, this is sub-regional need versus a regional need. That's not an accident. The urban rural reserves, that's not an accident. Those were rules and regulations that Metro went to the state legislature and got enacted and passed. They didn't fall out of the sky. They were enacted. And so we can't forget to mention, I think it's responsible for us to mention, that these are things that were imposed and put in place. And now we're saying, well, we can't do that because of this. Well, let's be honest and let's admit that we need to go back and revise those, or we've got to stop pointing at them and pretend that somehow the region or Metro wasn't responsible for putting those regulations in place. And that continually comes up, and they seem to be limiting our ability to grow and prosper, specifically Clackamas County, and I know the other parts of the region are struggling as well. But those are just some of the things we're battling, and it'll be interesting to see what comes out of today's meeting and that hearing today at Metro. And meanwhile, I hope we can make progress in the coming future on our museums, the future of them, the fairgrounds, roads, wastewater issues, employment lands, And making sure, another one I didn't mention, I'll talk about another time, is making sure our housing we don't see the same problem that Portland's having with rapidly rising rents that are pricing people out of their homes or out of their apartments. And I hope that does not make its way to Clackamas County. To some degree, it's making its way across the region anyhow, but what's going on there is peculiar. And hopefully anything that happens around Park Avenue will not induce the same kind of a change.
A recap again is this week we had a C4 meeting. I had the opportunity to sit with Tom Hughes, the president of Metro, for an hour around coffee. It was an interesting conversation, and not dissimilar to what people were talking about here. If you ever notice with Metro, they put forward a proposal. If anybody objects, they're certainly wrong. That's happened innumerable times, certainly with the regional mayors. Anybody that disagrees with Metro must be wrong or just not paying attention. They're certainly having their trouble with us simply because, as Commissioner Savas said, we have some needs here that have been demonstrated, and we are positive about our wants and our needs in that regard. I call it the Pee Wee Herman syndrome with Metro. When we say that we have a problem, and we say that they are the problem, they say, "I know you are, but what am I?" So the point of the matter is we will continue to take the high road and encourage Metro to come to the table. They're having that hearing today in spite of the fact, as Commissioner Savas said, that we asked them not to. It's a hearing on the Stafford area, which we're mandated to do through LCDC and the remand situation. The North Clackamas Chamber County Priorities meeting was an informal meeting that we all attended. A very good meeting in which we got to talk about a varied amount of subject matter. This afternoon, again, we mentioned the meeting. Tonight's a Fair Board meeting that I always like going to because they got great pie they hand out. Tomorrow is the Regional Disaster Preparedness Organization, of which I am the board representative. You know, it's really come to the fore since the New Yorker magazine article about the scare about what can happen to you. And I'll tell you how, since I've been on that committee, I've been cognizant about what my needs are. And what you need is at least 14 gallons of water per person for your household. I have a 40-pound backpack, emergency backpack, that I carry in my trunk, and my wife has one in her trunk. And then we have enough freeze-dried food to last us for 2 months. So I hope nobody writes that down and they get in trouble coming to my house. Don't expect anything but trouble. Anyway, the Northwest Public Employee Diversity Conference, of which our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Director, Emmett Wheatfall, is very involved in, is going to be this next week. Most of us are attending that. It's always a great time, and we'll continue. We've staggered some of our meetings to make that so we'll have afternoon meetings that day. In addition to that, I see people showing up at 10 o'clock this morning. I'm sorry. I rescheduled this for 9:30 because of a meeting that I have at lunch, and I got paranoid when you have 12 public hearings, and you know that sometimes there's actually a lot of testimony on those hearings. So we've almost completed our business here today. We have our quarterly budget committee meeting coming up, and there's some proposals by our lay citizens on going forward and structuring how the budget will be presented. We're always more than anxious to listen to that. And Clackamas Women's Services 30th Anniversary Gala, and that is next Saturday, and we look forward to attending that. This week we directed staff to work towards preparing a ballot measure for May of 2016 for C800's request. Now, C800 is an organization that is separate from the county, but they take care of all the radio needs, and they're on analog right now, and Motorola's, and a lot of times they're buying their parts on eBay. And the coming wave of need is definitely digital in this county and throughout the region, and we want to get ahead of that. The proposal that will be coming forward, in all probability, and will be on the May ballot, is for 10 cents per thousand of value. Now, let's remember, we're not talking about roads here, although that is part and parcel with safety, but we're talking about public safety here. And if our service providers, whether they be emergency medical or emergency through the sheriff's office, need to communicate with each other, that's paramount in delivering the services that we are obligated to do. So you'll find great support, I believe, on this board for that, and did at this particular meeting. We discussed the Parrot Creek facilities problem, and we've said that we would like to have a budget proposal that obligated us for up to $500,000 split over 3 years in order to try to bring back the facility from disrepair due to, frankly, neglect. I mean, when you don't take care of water problems specifically, they're going to exacerbate the problem. And so we're trying to come to terms with financially how we can help this organization. It's a long story as to how it got there, but it was a public vote that created that and purchased the property. And so now we would like them to continue, but it's a question of budgeting. The draft Metro reserves letter, we sent a letter to Metro for the remand record, informing them of our interest spelled out by Commissioner Savas in regards to our job land needs. And I think it was a good letter, and I think it, again, put them on notice that we're not going to go away easily on this issue, and we definitely can demonstrate our needs. Commissioner Bernard has been working hard on the Mount Hood land exchange. How many years has this been going on, Jim?
15, I believe.
15 years has been going on, and thank goodness, I think Jim's been bending the ear of a few senators, and the Senate has now, Senator Wyden has issued forward a bill to take care of this problem that seems to be festering, and it's basically because of the immovability of the United States Forest Service. Unfortunately, nowadays, it used to be different, where they'd get a Forest Service head ranger and they'd keep him in place in that for a long, long time. But that kind of continuity is no longer with us, and they change people often, and then they have to start over on issues. They're not even from the area a lot of times. They don't, might have heard of Mount Hood, but that has been an increasing problem. So I'm glad to see that that coming forward, and congratulations to Commissioner Bernard for his work on that. This is a long explanation, but I'll make it fairly short. I tried to spell out some unsung heroes, and this unsung hero is from Milwaukee. Her name is Dion Shepard, the chair of the Kellogg Good Neighbor Committee. The Good Neighbor Committee was created in 2013 by the City of Milwaukee and Clackamas County Service District Number 1, that's our sewerage district, to recommend how Kellogg Creek Water Resource Recovery Facility's Good Neighbor Fund should be prioritized and spent by Water Environmental Services, that's our WES, on behalf of Clackamas County Service District Number 1. The fund helps mitigate the impact of the facility on the surrounding neighborhoods. To date, the Kellogg Good Neighbor Committee has recommended an odor study to identify effective odor-reducing projects and a landscape plan to beautify the publicly visible and accessible areas around the plant, which also happens to be next to a fantastic park that was just opened this last year. Dion Shepard is easy to work with, enthusiastic. She helped explain the landscaping plan to neighbors and got input ahead of time. She maintains the on-site presence, keeping an eye on the plantings and letting us know when something is needed. She has her finger on the pulse of the community and certainly has saved Wes, and that's paid time, a lot of time that they would have otherwise had to invest. The district is grateful for the time and talent that Dion has contributed to the Kellogg Good Neighbor Committee. This partnership between the district and the community is a success due to her outstanding volunteer work as committee chair. When it was told to her that I was going to be doing this today, she deferred that praise and said all of her committee deserves the same praise. So again, thank you, Dion Shepard. The next item is a shakeout item. Kevin's going to put that on the screen. We do this every year. Last year, I had a picture taken of me under my desk. It was a tight squeeze, but I got under there. So you're invited to participate in the largest earthquake drill in the world. Get ready to shake out. And so it is drop, cover, and hold on. As a former carpenter, I will tell you that there are some key areas that you should pay attention to. Usually smaller rooms with more walls are good, and bathrooms are great, especially in bathtubs. In addition to that, any doorway has extra, if you ever took apart a door and you look up above, they have what they call headers, and they're very, very strong in comparison to the rest of the house. My suggestion is don't stand in the middle of a room. That's where the ceiling may have a problem. So the question is, are you participating? You can see what we intend to do at www.clackamas.us/shakeout. So participate with us. You never know when that might hit. And I'm going to ask Commissioner Bernard, before I announce the last thing, what you want to say?
Well, I just wanted to note that I have an app on earthquakes. Since the beginning of the month, there have been 1,785 earthquakes around the world. And also, just so, because I meant to mention this, at 11 o'clock is a moment of silence for the shooting that happened at the community college. So keep that in mind at 11.
Yeah, I noted that all the colleges are doing something today on that. I think that's fantastic to recognize that. And the last thing I'm going to tell you about is the last scheduled town hall for this commission this calendar year. It will be, the topic, honor, utilize, promote, and invest in our natural resources. The location will be appropriately in Welch's, the resort at the mountain, Wednesday, October 28th, 2015 at 6 p.m. It lasts an hour and a half. Oftentimes, people come from other areas to talk with us about this topic. Certainly it is not limited to those people who live up there. You can come from any part of Clackamas County and talk to us. We appreciate you doing so. Ladies and gentlemen, there being no further business before the commission this day, this meeting is adjourned.